HDUK, and we are going to look at cybersecurity. And I guess the theme of today's webinar is to keep your firm secure in this fast-changing digital world. We should be here, but any time between 20 to 40 minutes. We don't know. We had a run through, and we ended up talking about all sorts of interesting things on cybersecurity. So, Andy, would you like to just introduce yourself first, and then introduce Kevin? Would you introduce yourself, and then HDUK, and then explain what we're going to do in terms of the webinar process?
Of course we can. So I'd like to start by thanking Ian and Gordon for the invite today as well. We're a long-standing partner of the Succession Partnership, so it's great that they've opened up the client doors to us. So I'm Andy Fishwick, and alongside my partner Kevin Lally, we're part of the cyber specialist team at HDUK. Kev, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, nice to meet everybody. Thanks so much for joining us and for the invite. Hopefully you find this as beneficial as a lot of other partners have as well. It's something that a lot of practices have came to us to request, and now we're opening that out to a wider audience to hopefully help benefit them through their cybersecurity journey.
Exactly. So today's session's about an urgent challenge facing the accountancy sector. So cybersecurity, and specifically how we can detect, respond to, and stop cyber threats in real time using our SOC and SIEM technologies. This isn't just a tech conversation, it's a risk conversation, it's a compliance conversation, and ultimately, it's a business continuity conversation. So we'll start with what's changed over the last 5 years for accountancy firms and how they've transformed.
Just Andy, just before you start, just explain what SOC and CM are for idiots like me.
We do point into that a little further into the presentation, but SOC is our Security Operations Center and SIEM is our Security Information Event Management tools. So the two of those work together to ensure that you stay safe and protected. I've got a couple of examples further through the presentation that I can go through with you. So it'll just explain it then in a little more detail. But in summary, we have a team of 1,500 technicians based in Rotterdam. They work 24/7 to ensure that a hack is denied. They can't get into your systems. So we'll start with what's changed and how accountancy firms have transformed dramatically. Cloud adoption is now standard. Sensitive client data is handled and stored digitally. Remote work has permanently altered infrastructure and access. So since COVID, for example, more and more people are working from home than ever used to. But here's the reality. While your operations modernized, so did cyber criminals. So it's no longer just about a virus or a piece of malware that's dropped on a computer. Now you're physically working against other people that are trying to gain access. So some key facts. Over 60% of mid to large accountancy firms have reported attempted ransomware attacks in the past 12 months. The average breach in the professional service sector has cost £3.5 million in reputational damage, fines, and lost clients. And compliance bodies are tightening data governance and breach reporting rules. So the environment has changed, the threat has evolved, and traditional security tools are no longer enough. I can give you a few examples too. So, Marks and Spencer's, we all saw this in the news, roughly £300 million in lost revenue. The cooperative lost in the region of 270 million to 440 million in costs, fines, and damaged reputation. There's now a number of legal firms trying to encourage co-op members to join a legal claim to get compensation for the data that's been taken. The ICO have named a firm who had a massive data breach earlier on this year, and they've now had to change the business name to hide the damage to their reputation. And of
That's a
course,
firm of accountants, Andy, is it?
sorry?
That's a firm of
It's a
accountants.
firm of accountants based in the Northwest, yeah.
And they've had to go into liquidation and change their name.
They have, yeah, to recover from the damaged reputation. The ISO have reprimanded them for us. There was a little bit in the news. You can Google it. You can see it in all fairness online through BBC News. And then Jaguar Land Rover production has been severely hit by this cyber attack. They've been told now that staff shouldn't come back until at least mid-October. So when these threats do hit, they do hit really, really hard. And if you've not got the security in place for it, it's going to hit even worse. But, I'm going here across these big businesses. Let's look at the accounting industry as well. This will show you that it's not only the smaller firms that are a target. So from 2017, Deloitte and Touche had an email system breach. And then in 2023, this MoveIt vulnerability hit. MoveIt's a piece of software. There's a vulnerability in it that's caught an awful lot of these larger companies like PricewaterhouseCoopers, like Ernst& Young, like KPMG. Giant Pay and Brookson, both on Parasol, three umbrella services, all of which have had to announce cyber threats and inform the ICO. SJD Accountancy, another large accountancy practice, and one earlier on this year whose name can no longer be mentioned, but they were also hit and hit quite hard by a cyber ransomware attack. So it's not like a hack happens right away. They can sit on your server for months. They'll watch you. They'll see how your devices work. They'll look at your working routine, whether it's 9 to 5, whether you're 24/7, and they'll find out how best to exploit you. Now, I can break down how these breaches typically happen and how it might relate to firms like your accountancy practices. So the key one is credential theft. Cyber criminals are using phishing emails or texts that look like internal business or client communications to steal logins. So we've all seen it. You might get an email from the HMRC that says click on this link to download something. You might get a text message from a parking company saying you need to pay a fine because you've done something. You might have an email from Microsoft saying your password's expired, you need to reset it, or it could be OneDrive or Gmail, or everybody gets these emails. And until you look at that physical email address, you could just click on it, you could just miss it. So insider threats are something else. So sometimes it's not a hacker, but an ex-employee or even unaware staff misusing access privileges. So we've all seen that again. You stick your password on a post-it note underneath your keyboard. You might have your wireless access details written down somewhere. They could even be in the reception when you walk into the office. It's these things that people can exploit again. Third-party vulnerabilities. So you rely on platforms like Xero and QuickBooks and document signing apps like DocuSign and Adobe. If they're compromised, you are too. They hold all of this information. So there is a threat there based on the information they hold that belongs to you as a business. And then unmonitored cloud activity. So staff are using file sharing tools. They're accessing client data remotely, or they're working on unsecured devices. All of these things go unnoticed, and without proper monitoring, can you trust what your team have? So, for example, you've got a home computer, 4 or 5 people in the house might use that computer. You don't know what they're browsing, you don't know what they're downloading or looking at, you don't know if anything's been installed. Would you really want that home user to use that home computer to log into your business network or into your terminal servers? So what do these cause? Well, ransomware and data theft, probably are the most feared in all fairness, because attackers can encrypt your files and demand massive payments to unlock them. They can steal your data and then say, we're going to share this data across the dark web, and again, unless you pay this money, at which point you've got to notify the ICO. So the key point is here that these breaches don't come with big flashing red lights anymore. They unfold silently. They can be over days and weeks. So a good example of this, you've clicked on a link from an email from a trusted client. The link does nothing, so you continue working. You think, oh, it must just have not connected. It must have gone to the internet or something. But behind the scenes, it's ran a portable version of a piece of software called AnyDesk. So because it's portable, didn't need administrative rights to do it. And it's ran this on your hosted desktop, not your local computer. So you won't even see it. There might be a tiny little icon in the corner of your screen, but it's next to your clock. It's not somewhere you look all of the time. You see a million of these little icons, so you wouldn't really do anything about it. So what does that then do? Well, it can be opened when you're not working because they've been monitoring your network. They've been there for quite a while to ensure that they know when you are in and out of the office. Once that's been opened on your hosted desktop, they can install some tools, again, that don't need admin rights, that will give them access to specific parts of the remote desktop. So the user manager portal, for example, at which point they can create their own administrator account. Then they can start to do the nasty things on your server. So by using these accounts, they can then also clear down the event logs afterwards. So it's preventing traceability. You can't see that they've done anything. You don't know where they've been. You don't know what they've done. You don't know how bad the threat can be.
You're frightening the life out of me again, Andy.
Just lost where I was up to in the presentation then too. Scroll down through your notes.
I think the fact that you're actually talking about dealing with human beings and not just virus software that we all associate with this, and that the whole world of cybersecurity has shifted completely is frightening, isn't it?
It's true. I mean, there's companies out there now, or not companies, but consortiums, the likes of Mimic, and these are businesses and people that operate as a business now. There will be 15 or 20 hackers that they'll put onto a target at a time because they know they can make this money. They're actually trading, they're actually earning money doing this. It's not just someone sat in a little dark room somewhere tapping away and trying to do something. Oh, what was that old film called? Was it War Games or something like that, where he hacked into America? That isn't the case anymore. This information is available over the dark web. A consortium will purchase it, they'll target a business, they'll assess the threat and the damage they can do, and then they'll apply the resource to do it. We're doing the exact opposite of those people. We have a team of people that sit in the background that see these people trying to breach it and do what we can to prevent and protect it.
It frightens the life out of me because, you've got to say, can you trust your staff's own hardware? And the fact that this is an industry itself is frightening. And I think what we need to do is look at some solutions, which you're going to show us your solution in a minute, aren't you?
Exactly. I'm going to go through an explanation of the system, and then we'll go through an example of what happens and how the SOC and SIEM solution can work to keep you safe and protected. So what can be done? Well, this is where the SOC, Security Operations Center, and SIEM, Security Information and Event Management Software, come into it. So I can break it down really simply for you. SIEM's your central nervous system. It collects data from every part of your network, emails, cloud apps, endpoints, that's local computers, for example, firewalls, and it uses AI and rule-based analytics to support suspicious activity. SOC is your brain and your eyes. It's a team of cybersecurity experts who monitor this data 24/7, investigating and responding to threats in real time. So this might be a threat that we've heard from somebody else that's available now that we're looking at solutions to fix and stop, or it might be something that's physically happening within your network. So together, SOC SIEM gives you real-time threat detection. So for example, if you look below, we can't verify this email came from the sender, so it might not be safe to respond to. It gives you an immediate response to attacks. So as soon as SIEM sees something happen, the SOC SIEM are notified. And then what happens next? You get full compliance and audit trail. So GDPR, ISO, FCA, if you're part of a larger business, they need all this information just to show that you've been protected. So what does that give you? It gives you peace of mind. And we'll give you a quick demonstration of it.
Just a question though, because people may have heard of BT there, Andy, having a sort of solution, but for nothing really. What's the difference between yours and that sort of system?
So BT have a SIEM solution. So they have that AI piece of software that monitors and looks at what's going on within your network. But what BT do is they send that to you as an end user. So if this threat comes in at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're fast asleep in bed somewhere, by 8:30, 9 o'clock, when you're having a cup of tea, whatever's going to happen will have happened because SIEM just notifies you. SOC is the team behind it that protect you and keeps you and ensure that you're safe.
And tell us about these 1,500 people in the Netherlands.
So yeah, we are a partner company of Your Cloud. They are one of the largest hosting providers across Europe. They have a SOC team in place. They launched this in a couple of years ago, went out to their legal practices, and they got 100% uptake of the SOC SIEM solution. There are now 1,500 technical staff based over in Rotterdam, I believe. They work 24/7 to ensure that your systems are safe, secure, and protected. Now, they'll be the security maintenance team. They'll be the team looking at the SOC reports that are coming through. They're also the team that are looking at dark web scrubs, cyber awareness training, all of these things to ensure that what we do is as reactive as it possibly can be to keep you safe.
Fabulous. And they will actually so what happens when the SIEM system discovers something? These guys look at it, and then what do they do with the firm of accountants?
So if we go through this example here, it says exactly that.
Oh, sorry.
So you've logged into your computer, for example, at 9:30 in, let's say, Bognor Regis, because I was there this weekend round the corner watching the Goodwood Revival Festival. Then your credentials are used again from a different IP, let's say in Russia, 15 minutes later. So a traditional system wouldn't flag this. It's a username and password. You've been authenticated. It's been accepted and approved. So it's absolutely fine. There is nothing there at all to go with. So what our system does is it would notice that this IP address wasn't one that was common to you as a business, that you've not logged in and used that one before. It would then identify that and flag that up to our SOC team. Now they score these things 1 to 5, 1 higher severity, 5 something to look at in the future, but it doesn't really need to be worried about just now. So they investigate straight away. If it's malicious, the session would be cut, the credentials would be revoked, and the incident would be documented, all within minutes of this happening. So what's the result of that? There's no breach, there's no client data loss, no headlines, no fine. You're not going to come up on one of my presentations in a couple of weeks' time saying that you've been caught out as well. So it is done really, really quickly. And as I said, the team are big enough to ensure that we can monitor and scalable enough to ensure that we can do this for probably about another 200 or 300% of client uptake. So the flip before that I mentioned with regards to the email, what would happen with this one is our our SIEM software would sit on your computer. So this email's come through to you, and it looks like it's from one of your customers. But the first thing that you can see here is it can't verify that the email has came from that actual sender. So at this point, it's telling you, read this email, check it, look at the email address, make sure that it is as legitimate as it can be. It's notifying you straight away that there could be a potential threat here. Even if you did click on the link at this point and the AnyDesk software was installed, it'd be flagged straight away because it hasn't been run in the correct way. It's not been installed with administrative rights. It's being run as an executable and not installed physically on the local computer. Even at this point, when someone tried to log into it and create a new account, that'd be flagged and stopped because it's not coming from the right IP address. It's coming from an anonymous location. We've seen where this firewall is opened up. We've seen where this software has been installed from. It will be blocked again. So the software used to attempt the hack, the software itself, the AnyDesk software, all of it would be quarantined. SOC team would be alerted straight away. You're safe, you're protected. There is no data gone.
And just as an aside, this is quite a new service, right? I guess that's now available to professional services firms like lawyers, accountants, IFAs.
Yeah.
What percentage of accountants in the UK have got this already, roughly?
Oh, in the UK already, not many. So we're probably looking at around 10% of accountants looking at it. We've had a 90% uptake from our first marketing campaign. So we know it's something that accountants need. It's just about, especially while we're doing these webinars, is to explain it to accountancy practices to let you know exactly what this solution is. I mean, even to a point now that we've been made aware that McAfee and Avast are actually in the middle of developing their own SOC SIEM processes and SOC SIEM software to go out to end users at the end of next year. So they're physically rolling this out to end users in the same way as they'd roll out an antivirus package.
And the guys in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, those 1,500, I mean, what's the take up in Europe? They're way ahead of us, are they, on this?
Yeah, they're 100%. I mean, the law firms that we went to, so our existing European client law firms that we went to, every single one took it up. Nobody turned it down.
I think your take-up, you said to me earlier, was about 90% with accountants, isn't it?
It is. It is in the UK.
Those 10% of idiots.
So what you've basically got is you've got these smaller practices. It might just be two partners. You know, there's still quite a few old school accountancy practices where it'll be one or two people that just look after the books for a couple of clients and things like that. They're the ones that don't seem to get the technology and why these things are needed and required. And again, that's why we do these presentations. That's why we're going out to the market to say these threats are real.
I think this is so important. I mean, the first time I realized this is a completely different environment to what I'm used to was my daughter works for M&S and she's in social media marketing for them. And the horror story of how it happened was one of the reasons that we had this conversation with you guys for accountants, because it's so risky now with the work at home and all the other devices, and you don't know what people are looking at, do you?
It's true. You think you can be safe as well. I mean, you look at the Co-op for an example there too. It wasn't the Co-op system that got breached. It was one of their suppliers. They hold a distribution center, so a third-party logistics for the Co-op group. Because they open ports to share data back and forth between the two systems, that was all that was needed. So the supplier was broken into. They didn't touch their system at all until they'd monitored it, so exactly what was going on, realized it could get into the Co-op group, and that's when the virus hit. That's when the ransomware hit, and that's when they were taken down. And you saw how empty the shelves were. I mean, it was weeks and weeks and weeks of little stickers on Co-op doors saying, "We're really sorry, we can't fulfill everything at the minute." So it can cost, and you know, between 140 or 240 and 440 million pounds, the Co-op are going to pay 300 million for Marks and Spencers. British Airways a couple of years ago as well, they had a really big cyber threat on them. So you don't hear about small businesses, but it does.
I mean, that firm you said in the Northwest, they had a cybersecurity breach and they had to go into liquidation. That's public information, is it, that we can?
It is, yeah. I mean, all this information, I can share them all, but literally they all came from the BBC website as part of the market research we were doing for this rollout and this marketing strategy.
So what we're trying to do is avoid that by having these people in the Netherlands look after us.
Yeah, exactly.
And Andy, just a quick one. I don't know if I'm right in believing this, but is it? We might have to look into it. But the ICAEW, I believe they're thinking about making it regulation for accountants to have SOC SIEM at some point in the future.
Yeah,
Is that
next year
right?
by the looks of it. Yeah, November, December time next year, they're looking at rolling this out and making it required. So St. James's Place as well, for example, they required this now for all of their partners. So SJP needs Cyber Essentials Plus and SOC SIEM solutions to continue to work with them. And they're looking at they've rolled out Cyber Essentials Plus, SOC SIEM's now in progress. So it's going to be a requirement.
So can I ask what happens if there is a breach then and they gain access to your systems? Because it sounds like this is primarily preventative. How do you deal with an actual breach when it occurs?
So this depends on who you partner with. It depends on your hosted company. I can give you examples of what we at HDUK would do at this point. So you've got SOC SIEM running on your system, or you don't. So we'll do two separate scenarios. Scenario one, you don't have SOC SIEM running on your system. We have these things called snapshot backups that run every 2 hours that look to ensure that it's safe and protected, as well as our standard overnight backups as well. So our antivirus solution is ESET. That will run and work as soon as they try to run their encryption software. ESET would kick in and it would shut the server down, or it would block any access to that server. So at this point, we know that they've gained access to it. We know that they've tried to lock or hack or encrypt your data to stop logging into the system. Once that tool's been ran and it's locked down that server, our IT support team would be notified. At this point, we notify the client and then we do a complete system scan. So it wouldn't just be your files and folders. We would look at user access. We would go through event logs. We would look at all of these tools and all of these systems that we have in place to ensure that people aren't going to be able to get anything more into your data. We'll share the information and the findings with the client. We'll let them know exactly where we're up to. What we would tend to do at this point is we would look at the initial entry point where they've gained access into the servers. So that could be a day or a week or a month before. We then take the backup of the system from that point. So your operating system, your files, your programs, your users, so your operating system, your users, your programs, we would restore that. Do a full scan and check again, make sure there's no threats in it. Then we would restore your data from before the encryption threat had happened to restore that back across onto your system. At which point we would open it up to the client to access and ensure that the data was all there, is safe and correct. It is the client's choice at that point whether they notify their insurers, the cyber insurers, or whoever it is, that this has happened. If we believe that something has been happened, so data has been stolen or encrypted, we recommend that they do. They speak to their insurers. They might want to bring their own cyber specialist team in place. They'll then do their part, their incident report, to ensure that what we have done is correct and that the system that the cyber client is about to use again is completely workable, usable, safe, and there's no further threat. However, if SOC SIEM's in place, what would happen is the user would try and connect. We would be notified straight away through our SOC team that this person, this software, this application has been run that shouldn't have been. The server is shut down before anything else can happen. We would do the same scans to ensure that everything is safe and correct, and then it'd be operational. So the difference between the two is a threat's happened, we fixed it, we've got your back up and running. That could be anything between 72 hours and 7 days, depending on the cyber specialist or the company that you use through your cyber insurance to do their audits. SOC SIEM's in place, you're up and running again in 15 minutes. There is a massive difference in what this software solution can do. And it is about the case of benefiting the pros and cons. You know, this does come with a cost. It isn't a free solution, but it is an awful lot cheaper than recovering from a cyber hack or a cyber threat.
Can I just ask a quick question? It sounds like, based on what you said, that anybody could just click on a random link in an email, it installs AnyDesk or whatever it was you called it, and then does that create the connection for the people that would be trying to hack, or would that then give them the credentials to then try to log in as me? I'm just wondering where, like, having just put two-factor authentication on, would they not need to be going through that as well if they were logging in from Russia?
So we're literally going to touch base on that in about 5 time. I do apologise for running out. I have a very elderly dog and she was pacing at the back door, so I've just had to let her go into the garden before I had a flood in the conservatory.
I think in a post-COVID environment, we're all used to the Amazon person knocking on the door or the dog's going, aren't we?
I was dreading that one.
Let's have a look at this in a bit more detail. And guys, just ask questions if you want of Andy as he goes through. Interrupt him at your
Absolutely fine too. I just hope I can answer them all well enough for you too. I am techie, not sales, so if I do witter on and you wonder what I'm on about, please do tell me and I'll try and clarify it a little bit. So this again is just explaining what we've currently gone through. It's just the one of the little infographics I got that can detail SIEM, how it works and what it reports to and what it pushes out. So what are your next steps? At this point, I hope it's clear that cyber threats are no longer a maybe, they're a when. As you can see from the poll I've put up so far, pretty much everyone knows somebody has seen it in the news, has read it, that these threats are a when, that they are going to happen. And when they hit firms without 24/7 monitoring, they hit harder, as we've just talked about. So that's why we work with accountancy practice just like yours to implement cost-effective enterprise-grade SOC SIEM services that scale up with your need. So enterprise-grade. I used to be an ethical hacker. I worked alongside Booking.com, rental cars, and On the Beach. They use a solution called IBM Endpoint. That's £250,000 a year, or $250,000 a year. Our solution offers the same services as IBM Endpoint, but obviously we're not charging you $250,000 a year for it. So whether you're already under compliance pressure, you've seen suspicious activity internally, or you simply want to safeguard your firm's reputation, we're here to help. And our team offer a free security assessment tailored to accounting environments with recommendations on where you're strong and where you're vulnerable. That's what we sent across in our September mailer as well. So I will, if you're interested in it, ping me an email after this or talk to Kev and we'll send you that assessment across and we can go through it and have a discussion. It's only a questionnaire, really. It's not too in-depth, but it does just highlight some things that you might not have thought about, which again, we'll follow on in some of these slides. So our SOC and SIEM packages. So it's not just a piece of software. It's not just the security operations team that are based out in Rochester. It is not Rochester, Rotterdam. It's a package that works hand in hand with all of these different solutions to ensure that you're cyber safe. And it isn't just one thing, it is a whole suite of applications. So what does that involve? As we've just discussed, multi-factor authentication. So you're right, passwords are no longer enough. If we did have MFA, so we partner with Microsoft and Duo, for example. It's a little app that you can have on your phone, but it can be a text message, it can be a dongle, it can be all of these things. But what that means is when you come to log into your remote desktop, you've got to authenticate it. In the same way as if you try to change your password on Facebook, it'll email you a code now, or you try to log into Google Mail from another computer, it'll ask you to confirm it by authenticating with an app. So we do the same thing. That would mitigate the issue with Russian access straight away, because it's no longer just a username and password. So unless they've stolen your mobile phone, they've got your dongle, they've got one of these codes that you need, you're a lot safer just by doing that. Then we've got our snapshot solution. So it's beyond a standard backup. So instead of only saving your files and your data, snapshots save everything. They save your Windows environment, they save your latest updates, they save your Google saved passwords, they save your credentials, they save your user profile. So even if you were halfway through working on, for example, a PowerPoint presentation, or you'd have 27 shortcuts open in Chrome on your screen, when we restore that, it would restore all of that as well. So you would log in, open up your screen, and everything would be back there. Very clever little tool, and they run more often, so they'll run every 2 hours. So awareness training. Employees are often the first target in cyber attacks. So our ongoing program sends out monthly simulated phishing emails to your team. They increase in sophistication so that with each round that these are sent out, and then at the end of each month, you get a detailed report highlighting vulnerabilities and progress. They're based on real world tactics, both current and emerging. So we're looking at what's going on the dark web. We're looking at these emails that are getting sent out. We're tailoring something in the same way. So the first email might just be, administrator, your password has expired. Please click here. No one would click it. But the 10th or 11th email you would get would look that real and that sophisticated that if you hadn't followed the emails 1 to 9 before it, you probably would have fell for that one straight away. You would have risked a breach. And then the last thing we use is our dark web scraper. So we continuously scan the dark web for mentions of your business, including website names and email addresses, even to the point where we can look at postcodes and phone numbers. If we find sensitive information that's discovered, our SOC team will alert you immediately and provide actionable recommendations to strengthen your defences. What we find that's happening more and more, and this is quite surprising now, is that people are coming to sites, so delivery people, couriers, they're looking for this information because they're trying to sell it on the dark web. So even someone just coming handing a parcel over now, if you've got your business email address written down, reception at company name, whatever it could be, that's the first point of contact. That's something they're making a note of when they're selling on the dark web. So they can identify and decide how vulnerable you are, how much of a target you would be to one of these hacking consortiums. So this is how SOC SIEM works. This is where we identify your threats from. So if you have a little look, you've got a guest and mobile network there. So how do you know which devices are joining? How do you know they haven't already been breached? And how do you know they are who they say they are? So as again, someone's come to visit you as a potential client. They're saying that they want you to do all their accounts for them. They brought the local computer in with them. They've accessed your guest network. You think, fantastic. At this point, all they can see is the guest network. There's nothing more they can do from here. But there's still always a chance that the two networks can communicate with each other. Then we've got rogue devices. So what would a rogue device be? This is going to sound stupid, but we've got companies that have got coffee machines on the local network. That again can be a threat. If someone can log into that coffee machine, could they then gain access to your network? Then we've got the likes of non-compliant devices. So what might that mean? So it could be a computer that's not had the latest Windows update patches. It could be a computer that's not had the latest update patches to specific pieces of software. Those pieces of software, again, could exploit a vulnerability to gain into your network. Even now, Windows 10 support stops on the 25th of October this year. So at that point, there's no more updates for Windows 10. If someone in your office has a Windows 10 computer, it's not getting patched anymore. That's where the vulnerabilities come through. So what SOC and SIEM do is they're aware of all of these vulnerabilities. They're aware of all of these things that aren't updated. They can monitor your network for these things and ensure that they can't gain access or do anything worse on your network itself. And thankfully, that's me done before my mouth goes dry as dry can be. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, we're not letting you off yet, Andy,
You're not
because
letting
that
me
was
off
so
yet. I'm having a quick
interesting.
drink.
I
So
think the first important point there, guys, is Windows 10's not been supported, and that's why I guess I've been moved to Windows 11 against my will in March earlier this year. So that's the first thing. Make sure everybody's got all the latest Windows 11 Pro up to date. We're going to have a few questions for Andy, I'm sure. So just on the cost, it's per person you charge, isn't it?
it
And
is, yeah.
it's
It's
under
per
30
person per
pounds.
month.
It's under £30 per seat per person per month. I think that's sort of the way to just frame that. But you'll actually if someone wants to do a quick check over on their cybersecurity, you'll do that. And if they want to talk to you further, as I say, 90% of people that you talk to take this up because it makes obvious sense to protect your firm's reputation,
Yeah.
if nothing else, with this. Guys, I mean, brilliant. Thank you, Andy. You frightened the living daylights out of me at the start, and then you made me very comfortable with your 1,500 people in Rotterdam. Any questions for Andy or indeed Kevin, who's been patiently in the background, that you'd like to ask them?
Just a quick question. This might sound like a really stupid question, but it's obvious that the hacking is going to come from places like Russia or whatever. Can you not just treat all Russian logins as suspicious and block them? I don't know why that's not happening anyway.
So the SOC SIEM solution, firewalls can do that. They can block these things. They can do that. It's completely right. But there's also nothing to stop someone going from Russia using a VPN to go to a different country or tunnel it through. So the advantage of these tools are they can try and get back through the VPNs as well. So they'll establish where the full connection's coming from and how to get back into it. But yes, we can. We have got clients that we do that for where they use geographical specific network access. So we'll look at a country. So they'll say we work from Romania, Venezuela, and the UK. So we need these ports open. But if someone tries to log in from France or anywhere else, they will be locked down. But again, that's down to your hosting provider. It's down to your current IT.
Okay.
Can I just check, does it cope with Microsoft Teams? Because one of the things I've noticed recently is that we're getting fake meeting requests coming through via Teams. It is a good example.
So part of the SOC SIEM solution works with your Microsoft 365 tenancy. It's an add-in to 365 that protects Teams, Outlook, all of these other different functions as well. So it does sit and monitor your 365 tenancy.
Ian, I know you said that you'd been scared by this, but I don't want to scare anybody any more than, and I don't want to sound like an HDUK. But I've just joined the sales team, but please do not take this lightly. I'll say that from experience. Don't take it lightly. This does need to be looked at, and you do need to be. Don't sit there and think, oh, we're just a small company. They're not going to do anything. Because it doesn't matter what size you are. if they can find some sort of crack in your system, they will find it. And it might be 6 months ago, it might be a year ago, but they'll find that crack and it will sit until they want to use it.
Brilliant. Any more questions for any of the guys today from HDUK? Okay, I'll take that as no. So you've got their details there on the screen, and I want to say thank you so much to everyone who joined today. I found it very interesting. This new threat's out there, so we've got to do something about. Maybe talk to HDUK about a possible solution for you on that front. All that remains for me to say is thanks, everyone. We'll record this. If you want to get a copy for your team or anybody else in the organisation, let Andy or Ali or Kevin know. There's their details on the screen. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Bye now.
everybody.
Bye.